must I chase the cat?
Nothing but the dog in me.
Why must I chase the cat? Nothing but the dog in me.
Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. We are on our last Saturday of May this year. We've just renewed or put in for renewal for the shows for the next season. Both I and my cohort, Speedo, have submitted our paperwork, and now we wait until we get our confirmation of our new time slots, and that's always not necessarily a given, but we can hope for the best. So hopefully we will be bringing you guys everything that you're used to on a Saturday night for another season. And it happens, it goes by so quickly. It really does. The season goes by quickly. They run on the quarter, and likewise the renewals. And time flies. It's hard to believe that let's see, we're almost at 2.5 years of Posse Presents, which I just, where did it go? And hopefully you as an audience, who I appreciate, will remain with me, and we will continue to try to do some good things. Anyway, I'm going to start tonight with a call for votes for Juno. Zach, let's grab those pictures and put them up. If you remember, Juno was on this show back in January, and she is everybody's little darling. I am so in love with this dog, it hurts. But she is up for Emerging Hero category in the Hero Dog Awards. And you can go through those couple of pictures if you want, Zach. I discovered altogether too late in the game, not too late in the game, but very late in the game, that you can use different email addresses. So I have a good 6 or 7 email addresses, and they can all vote once every 24 hours. So if you've got multiple email addresses and you have been voting for Juno, you can use them all. And that's not cheating. It goes by the email address once every 24 hours. I don't know what made me try. I mean, I've been familiar with a lot of these contests, and sometimes they recognize your IP address. If you open up like a different browser, you go from Google to Chrome to AOL to Firefox to whatever else you've got, that will count as a separate vote with the same email address. But this is actually as many email addresses as you have, you can put them in and vote once every 24 hours. And, hey, it's not cheating. So that's a beautiful thing. And apparently there'll be some stats coming out in the next couple of weeks, even though the voting goes until October, I guess, like there are just different rounds of it. And if Juno doesn't come out in the top 3, basically she's out of the running. So come on, Pack, let's get going and keep voting for Juno. And if you haven't been voting for Juno, you can start. And like I said, most of us have an email address or 2. I know I do. Like I said, a good 6 or 7. Don't ask questions. But I have a number of them, and just like I said, just found out kind of, by trial and error that you can do more than one, and it works, and it's not cheating. And so I will now be multiplying my votes for my little friend, and I'm not going to, not going to worry about it. It works. I will take the camera back for a moment and talk about another dog who needs your vote, and that is Harley. Now, some of you may be familiar with National Mill Dog Rescue, and Harley works, that's who rescued Harley. And Harley spent 10 years in a puppy mill, and he has spent the last few of his years in a loving home and campaigning to save more puppy mill dogs. And him and his little buddy Teddy go out on the road and collect up, dogs that are basically fulfilled their usefulness at the mills and get them into homes, which is a beautiful thing. Let's get the picture of Harley up, Zach. Harley is just far too adorable. He's borne the abuse and the wear and tear of having been in the puppy mill. He lost his eye. I think he's got not so many teeth anymore, but he's absolutely gorgeous and lovable, and he really does his thing to try to save other puppy mill dogs. Now, the voting for him is for the cover of Modern Dog magazine, and if he wins, he will be able to bring the horrors of puppy mills to national attention, which is very important. He's got his Facebook page, which is simply Harley, and you can go check him out, and you can go check out his page for the voting link, and you can likewise check out the Pound Posse Presents page for the voting link, and see what his story is and fall in love with him, and hopefully vote for him. You can vote once every 12 hours for Harley on the Modern Dog magazine site, and I don't know about the multiple email addresses. I just saw this come up and I haven't had time to explore it. But also, I'll take the camera back, Zach. For the Juno voting, if you need that link, there is the link. I share them all the time on the Pound Posse Presents page. You can go to Juno's page, which is Juno's Place, and there is actually an event page, and Juno's mom, Deb, posts reminders every day for people to vote, which is kind of handy because, it comes up in your notifications on Facebook, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't vote for Juno today, let me go do that. I don't know if they have anything similar for Harley. If I do find it, I'll post it. But these are two dogs who have their separate causes, but they are certainly worthwhile ones, and they are both worthy of your votes. Juno tries to make a difference for both people and animals, and Harley is trying to, save the puppy mill dogs. And, it's both very notable causes, and so if you would consider voting, that would be a wonderful thing. And so, on with my notes, which I got all messed up here. I'm human. Bet you didn't know that. Anyway, Zach, pull up the collages and that final picture of Bubbles. If you remember, there was a dog named Bubbles that I spoke about a number of months ago, who was found with a 9-pound tumor on her head. You can scroll through them, Zach, it's okay. She had a 9-pound tumor removed from her head, and it was an awful thing. I don't think we've got the picture of the actual tumor, but this was her after her surgery. This thing was it just encompassed the whole side of her head, and it was god awful. And Noah's Ark's rescue took her in, had the tumor removed, and these are the pictures of her getting loved on and all that afterwards. Apparently, there's one more picture, right, Zach? Apparently, there were other tumors involved and invaded her lungs, and it would have meant more surgery for her, including the removal of a lung. Unfortunately, the way the tumor was pressing on everything inside, she was filling up with fluid and starting to decline and having all kinds of trouble. So it would have meant more surgery, and not just surgery, but major surgery. So Bubbles was freed from further pain earlier this week, and she is now at the Rainbow Bridge. And at least she lived her last months loved and happy, which is really what rescue is all about, or it should be anyway. But Noah's Ark's rescue is definitely worth a look-see and your support. You can check them out on Facebook. It's Noah's Ark's Rescue. And, they take in medical emergencies and special needs dogs, and they work miracles. They do their part to rehabilitate, to help, to, heal these dogs who, otherwise wouldn't necessarily have anyone who would step up for them. If you look at their page, sometimes the pictures are really, really hard to look at. They have a particular case now. I'll take the camera back, Zach. They have a particular case now of a dog that was abused and burned, and she's just, it's horrible. The pictures are horrible. but the dog is actually, starting to rally and doing quite well. So, quite well, all things considered, because, really, how are you doing well after something like that? But they, like I said, definitely check them out on Facebook, give their page a like, follow them. They do some amazing stuff, and it's Noah's, Noah''s, ARKS, ARKS, Rescue. And, give them your support for doing what they do. They take the dogs that just I don't think anybody else would be able to step up for, and they do a great job of it. And Bubbles was one of those dogs. I wish I had realized we didn't have the picture of the tumor of that she had. It was ugly. She was tilting her head, and she couldn't even eat out of a bowl. I mean, that's how invasive this thing was. It just messed her up. So, like I said, at least Bubbles had the last months of her life free of that, and being loved and being a dog again. And that's really, it's what rescue's all about, or like I say, what it should be. Unfortunately, rescuers, the rescue community, not always kind to each other, not always doing what they're doing for the right reasons, not always on the up and up. And, that's a topic that I have covered before, and I'm not going to delve into it really right now. But I think on an upcoming show, we're going to revisit some of the criteria that makes a reputable or good or, solid rescue, because I think it needs to be addressed again. And that's that. So rest in peace, Bubbles, and thank you to Noah's ARKS for taking care of her and giving her that second chance. Okay. So there is a reading program for kids in Meriden that was just announced. And Zach, let's get that poster up if we can. The Tommy DePaula Children's Library has this program called Pause to Read. And children get to read to a dog. And it is a certified therapy Doberman Pinscher, belonging to my friend Debbie from Pet Playhouse, who has recently gotten her dog Freya certified for pet therapy. And she is just embarking on that world of, making hospital visits and therapy visits to schools. And this library is starting this program based on Freya, which is really cool. Now, a lot of kids struggle with reading. A lot of kids struggle with reading out loud, and there's not a lot more important than literacy and being able to read. And it's a really cool idea to be able to read to a dog. I mean, not only do you get to practice your reading skills, you're practicing them in a non-judgmental environment. If you really don't have, if a kid doesn't have really strong reading skills, and tries to read out loud in class, the other kids are judging, the teacher's judging, kid might get laughed at, and that's really, really damaging. So, to read to a dog who's not going to judge you, who doesn't care if, how well you do or don't read, you're getting, your kid's getting the practice and gaining confidence, and it's just a win-win situation. Each child will get 15 minutes to read and can sign up for 2 of the 4 sessions. There's going to be one every Thursday in June, and the kids can read one of their favorites or choose a book at the library to read. And as I said, it's every Thursday in June between 3:30 and 4:30. And this program is open to children kindergarten to 4th grade. And those are some pretty crucial years for developing skills. And, yes, kindergartner kids can read and should practice. The better, the younger I think you are when you develop certain skills, the better off you're going to be in the long run. So kindergarten to 4th grade, I think, is a great span of age to be able to do something like this. And the poster says that each child reader will get a little something for participation. And I think that's kind of cool too, a little memento or a little, something to take away from it, makes a lasting impression and probably perpetuates a kid's excitement to want to continue to do well. Anyway, registration is required, and for more information or to register your child, you can call 203-630-6347. Once again, that's 203-630-6347. And one thing I do not know is whether this is just for residents or if anybody can go, but if you make that phone call, you will certainly find out. And I'll take the camera back, Zach. I've seen shelters that have programs that are similar to that with the shelter dogs. Kids can come in and read to the shelter dogs, and that's really cool because it gives kids the same experience of being able to read and practice up on their skills in a non-judgmental setting. But it's good for the dogs because they have someone sitting there paying some kind of attention to them. I mean, you got to figure the dog really doesn't know what you're doing, but the dog's got someone sitting there with them and paying attention to them, and it's a great interactive thing. And even if in the shelter the kid might be outside the kennel and sitting in a chair, or this is how the setup that I've seen, it's still a great thing because, like I said, the dog is getting some kind of attention, the child's getting the practice, and it's good all around. And it kind of brings the kid's awareness too, outside of his or herself, that there are animals that are sitting in shelters. It's like a teaching experience on a bunch of levels, and that's a great thing. And I wish that I knew of any place in Connecticut that had a program like that. And if anybody gets that little light bulb right now of the idea to do something like that, certainly let me know if you make any progress, and I will promote it because I think it's fabulous. So there's the seed. I've planted it. If there's anybody out there who thinks they can undertake getting that done here in Connecticut, that would be wonderful. But in the meantime, we've got the library program, and I think that should be something that happens in more places too. All right, so we've talked about a lot of different forms of abuse here on the show. And one of the things that I talked about recently was palm oil and how much of it is in products that you use every day. And it's alarming. I have a friend who has contacted me saying, she looked around her house and couldn't believe all the stuff that had palm oil in it. She's been out shopping and she read the labels and she sees all the stuff that has palm oil in it, and it's overwhelming. But one of the things that we have not addressed on the show, and I will probably do a whole show or most of a show about animal testing. Animal testing, you hear about it, you can kind of sweep it under the carpet because you're buying your stuff anyway. You don't really realize what's involved. Animal testing is a horrible, horrible thing, whether it's for products that are, cosmetics and home products, or you get into like the whole other end of it with medical testing and, the things that happen in that particular niche of the abuse. But I'm going to talk particularly about, the home products. It's not a question of, when you go for an allergy test, they give you a skin test or whatever. When they're testing these products on animals, they are literally holding their eyes open and pouring product into their eyes. They are literally forcing it down their throats. They are, doing things that just don't make sense when products have been on the market for so long. That why is the need to perpetuate abuse on these animals? I personally don't understand. Zach, let's get that poster up of some of the brands and the products that still test on animals. They hook gas masks up to a dog's face and have them inhale toxic fumes. What is the point of that? If you're an idiot who wants to sniff bleach, you get what you deserve. I don't know why you have to test it on an animal, I don't understand why you have to force feed an animal anything to see what it'll do. If you don't think it's going to be good for somebody, then, why have to inflict the torture on an animal? Now, if you look at this partial list of products that test on animals, it's scary. What does Band-Aid need to test on an animal? It's adhesive tape and a cotton pad. What do you have to test on an animal? 409. What are you doing? Do you have to really spray it in an animal's eyes just to tell you that it's going to hurt? Of course it's going to hurt. Pampers. What are Pampers doing testing on animals? I don't understand. I don't understand personally a lot of the stuff that's on this list. If you're dealing with chemicals, the odds are it's not good for anybody. No, it's not going to be good for people. It's definitely not good for animals. What does Listerine have to test? What does toothpaste have to test? Vaseline, really? And yeah, Old Spice. That's, it's crazy, some of these things. And it's like I said, it's not a kind, skin test to see if they get irritated. This is literally stuff getting poured in their eyes, force-fed down their throats. Pledge, is that one of them up there? I can't see to save my life. Really, furniture polish, if you're going to eat it, you get what you deserve. That's just, why do you have to do anything to an animal to discover that any of these things aren't good? You can have a product that you don't have to test on animals. And there's certain brands, and I don't have the logo right now. It's the Leaping Bunny, which basically signifies that product is not tested on animals. And this is why I want to do a show that talks more in depth about some of this. The good choices versus the bad choices. And, the good choices, certainly the anything that I might bring up with the Leaping Bunny brand on it, isn't an endorsement, but it's an option. And I just don't understand why you need to test on animals. Iams, it's a pet food company. What are you testing on animals? I just don't get it. So this is sort of like a preliminary, hey, heads up, for everyone to see, and maybe start thinking about their choices when they're doing your shopping, because there are actually animals suffering to make these products, and there's no excuse for it. Again, I will do a show on it, and we'll get into it a little more in depth. But in the meantime, certainly keep your eyes peeled, take a look at what you've got in your cabinets, and see how you're contributing to the perpetuation of the problem or not. Okay, I will take the camera back for a moment, Zach. And, I always make the call for people to foster animals to save lives. And somebody put up a clever little poster on Facebook, and I kind of snatched it. Zach, can you put that up? This is just adorable to me, and it's so true. Look at that face. I am alive because someone fostered me. Please consider fostering. It saves lives. It's kind of along the lines of that dog shaming stuff, what people post about, their dogs do wrong. But this is just a survival moment for this dog. Somebody was good enough to foster it, and that's why he's alive. So, consider it. If you don't want to hear me tell you, there's a picture of it that's proof right there. So, anyway, Zach, camera back to me one more time. I know that we're getting ready to wrap it up. What I would like to bring your attention to before I go is a page called Free Kato and Cleo on Facebook, which is free Kato and Kleo. Go check that page out. There's going to be more coming up and coming out about that story. It's not my story to tell. and sometimes it's not, so I respect that. We are working on having Cato and Cleo's mom come on and talk about the whole picture. But if you check out this page, you'll get a preliminary overview of what's going on with these dogs and why they need to be freed, and be able to perhaps get involved and help try to get these dogs out of where they are. They're basically on death row right now, and they have been since October of 2012, impounded by the state for an incident that if you go to the page you can read about. Like I say, it's not my story to tell right now. I'd like not to get too far into it without having, you know, the owner present and let her tell the story. But read up on it, check it out, go like the page. By all means, you know, there'll be a petition coming out soon, hopefully, and hopefully we can do something to help move these dogs back into the home that they were taken from. Anyway, what do we got for time here? Because it's looking like we're out. All right, well, let's put up the credits, and I will say my goodnights by means of peace, love, and dogs. And, oh, now they're telling me I have more time than I thought? That's not fair. Anyway, we've got some guests coming up soon. One that I am actually very, very excited about. I will have Sue Torres on in 2 weeks, and stay tuned for that. You guys are killing me tonight.